Hercule Poirot and the Secret in the Frosted Mirror. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Winterhaven. The snow fell in soft, relentless flakes, cloaking the Yorkshire countryside in a silence that seemed to hush even the thoughts of Hercule Poirot. He sat in the warmth of a first-class train carriage, his gloved fingers drumming lightly on the armrest, his moustache impeccably groomed despite the early hour. Beside him, Captain Arthur Hastings, ever the loyal companion, peered out the frost-etched window, his breath fogging the glass. "Dash it all, Poirot," Hastings said, rubbing his hands together. "This is a rum business, isn't it? A letter from some lady we've never met, summoning us to a manor in the middle of nowhere. And in this weather." Poirot's eyes gleamed with amusement. "Mon ami, it is precisely the rum business that piques the curiosity of Hercule Poirot. Lady Eleanor Ashford's letter was most intriguing, non? She speaks of a secret, a mirror, and a matter requiring my little grey cells. How could I resist?" Hastings snorted, pulling his coat tighter. "A mirror? Sounds like a lot of nonsense. Probably some family squabble over an heirloom. You're too fond of mysteries, old chap." Poirot smiled thinly, his gaze drifting to the letter in his hand, its elegant script marred by a faint tremble, as if written in haste. "Monsieur Poirot, I implore your assistance at Winterhaven Manor. A secret festers here bound to a frosted mirror that holds more than reflections. I fear for our safety. Come at once. Signed, Lady Eleanor Ashford." The urgency, the mention of a mirror. It was enough to stir Poirot's insatiable need for order in a world of chaos. The train slowed, and soon they disembarked at a desolate station, where a chauffeur in a heavy overcoat awaited with a motor-car. The drive to Winterhaven Manor wound through snow-laden hills, the landscape a monochrome canvas broken only by the dark silhouette of the estate. Its turrets pierced the grey sky, and its windows glowed faintly, like eyes watching their approach. "Formidable," Poirot murmured, stepping out into the crunching snow. "A house with secrets, Hastings. One can feel it." They were ushered into a grand hall, where a fire crackled in a massive hearth. Lady Eleanor Ashford, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair and a face etched with worry, greeted them. Her hands twisted a lace handkerchief as she spoke. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, I cannot thank you enough for coming. This house, it is not what it seems." Before Poirot could respond, the room filled with the other guest, each introduced with a formality that barely masked underlying tensions. Major Reginald Brant, a retired colonel with a bristling moustache and a penchant for brandy, eyed Poirot with suspicion. Miss Clara Thorne, the governess to Lady Eleanor's absent niece, was a pale, reserved woman whose eyes darted to the corners of the room. Madame Celeste Duval, a flamboyant artist with a penchant for scarlet scarves, swept in with a theatrical air, her French accent thick and deliberate. Lastly, there was Mr. Grayson, the butler, whose stiff posture and quiet demeanour suggested a man accustomed to observing more than he spoke. "Dinner will be served shortly," Lady Eleanor said, her voice strained. "But first, let me show you the object of my concern." She led them to the drawing-room, where a large, ornate mirror dominated one wall. Its frame was gilt, intricately carved with vines and roses, but the glass itself was frosted, its surface shimmering with an odd pearlescent glow. Poirot stepped closer, his head tilted, his fingers brushing the air as if to coax secrets from the glass. "Curieux," he said softly. "This mirror, it is not ordinary, n'est-ce pas, lady?" Eleanor nodded. "It belonged to my late husband, Lord Ashford. He was obsessed with it. He died a year ago, under circumstances I cannot fully explain. Since then, strange things have happened. The staff whisper of shadows in the glass, of voices. I thought it nonsense. But now—" Her voice faltered. "I fear there is something sinister at play." Hastings frowned. "Shadows? Voices? Sounds like a ghost story to me." Poirot's lips twitched. "The human mind, mon ami, sees shadows where there are only tricks of light. But this mirror, it has a purpose. I shall discover it." The conversation was interrupted by a young maid, her face pale as she curtsied. "Begging your pardon, my lady, but the mirror, it's done it again. I saw something move in it, I swear." The room stilled. Major Brant scoffed, muttering about hysterical girls, while Madame Duval clutched her scarf, her eyes wide. Miss Clara remained silent, her fingers tightening on her teacup. Poirot, however, was already at the mirror, his magnifying glass in hand, inspecting the frame's edges. "There are scratches here," he noted, "recent and deliberate. Someone has tampered with this mirror." Lady Eleanor gasped. "But who? And why?" "That, madame, is what Hercule Poirot will uncover," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "The mirror holds a secret, yes, but it is a secret of human making, not of phantoms." Dinner was a tense affair, the clink of silverware punctuated by strained small talk. Major Brant regaled the table with tales of his military days, while Madame Duval spoke of her latest painting, a study of reflections. Miss Clara said little, her gaze flickering to the drawing-room door. Poirot observed them all, his mind cataloguing every gesture, every inflection. Hastings, meanwhile, struggled to keep up, his honest face betraying his confusion. As the evening drew to a close, Poirot lingered in the drawing-room, alone with the mirror. The firelight danced across its frosted surface, and for a moment he thought he saw a flicker, a shadow perhaps, or a trick of the light. He shook his head, dismissing it. "Non," he murmured. "It is not the mirror that speaks, but the minds behind it." And Poirot will listen. Outside, the snow continued to fall, sealing Winterhaven Manor in a cocoon of white. The stage was set, the players assembled, and the mystery of the frosted mirror had begun to unfold. Chapter 2. The Shadow in the Glass. The wind howled outside Winterhaven Manor, rattling the windows as if the storm itself sought entry. Inside, the drawing-room was a cocoon of warmth, the fire casting flickering shadows across the frosted mirror that dominated the wall. Hercule Poirot stood before it, his small, precise figure reflected faintly in the pearlescent glass. His shield eyes, sharp as ever, traced the scratches he had noted earlier, their irregular edges suggesting a tool wielded with haste or desperation. Captain Hastings, hovering nearby, stifled a yawn, his enthusiasm for the evening's mystery waning with the late hour. "Poirot, it's nearly midnight," Hastings said, glancing at his pocket watch. "Surely this mirror business can wait until morning. A good night's sleep will do us all some good." Poirot's moustache twitched. "Sleep, mon ami, is for those who lack curiosity. The mirror, It speaks to me, not in words, but in secrets. Those scratches, they are not the work of time. They are deliberate. And I, Hercule Poirot, will understand their meaning. Before Hastings could protest, a piercing scream shattered the silence, echoing through the manor's cavernous halls. Poirot's head snapped up, and Hastings, suddenly alert, fumbled for the door. Good heavens, what was that? They hurried towards the sound, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpets. In the corridor, they found a young maid. Annie, the same girl who had spoken of the mirror earlier, clutching her apron, her face ashen. Lady Eleanor Ashford appeared moments later, her nightgown hastily covered by a shawl, followed by Major Brandt, Miss Clara Thorne, and Madame Celeste Duval, all in various states of disarray. What is the meaning of this? Major Brandt barked, his military bearing undiminished by his rumpled dressing-gown. "Girl, stop your caterwauling!" Annie's voice trembled. "It was the mirror, sir. I swear, I saw it, a shadow, moving in the glass. Not a reflection, mind. You, but something alive." Poirot raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that erupted among the guests. "Mademoiselle Annie, describe this shadow, s'il vous plaît. Every detail, it is important." The maid swallowed, her eyes darting to the drawing-room door. "I was passing by, checking the lamps, when I glanced at the mirror. There was a figure, tall, dark, like a man in a cloak, but no one was in the room. I checked, sir, I did. It vanished, quick as you like." Madame Duval gasped, clutching her scarlet scarf. "Mon Dieu, it is cursed. I knew it the moment I saw it. That mirror? It is no ordinary thing." "Nonsense," Major Brandt scoffed. "Reflections play tricks in firelight. The girl's imagining things." Miss Clara, silent until now, spoke softly. "Perhaps it was a trick of the light, but I've heard stories about that mirror. Lord Ashford was peculiar about it. He'd spend hours staring into it, as if it held answers." Poirot's gaze shifted to Lady Eleanor, whose hands twisted her shawl. "Madame, you mentioned your husband's death was under mysterious circumstances. Tell me, what connection does this mirror have to Lord Ashford?" Lady Eleanor hesitated, her eyes flickering to the guests. "It was his prized possession, brought from an auction in London. He claimed it had a history, though he never shared the details. After his death, a fall down the stairs, the coroner said, I noticed the staff avoided the drawing-room. Said the mirror. Changed. Hastings echoed, his scepticism evident. "Mirrors don't change, Lady Eleanor. They reflect." Poirot ignored his friend, stepping back into the drawing-room. The mirror loomed in the firelight, its frosted surface seeming to pulse with an unnatural sheen. He examined it closely, his magnifying glass catching the glint of the scratches. "These marks," he said, almost to himself, "they are not random. They form a pattern, perhaps initials or a symbol. But why here, on the frame?" He turned to Annie. "You are certain no one was in this room when you saw the shadow?" "Yes, sir," she whispered. "I looked all around. The door was locked and the windows shut tight." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. "Very well. Return to your duties, mademoiselle, and you, mes amis, to your beds. The night is late, and the mirror will keep its secrets until morning." The guests dispersed, their murmurs filled with unease. Hastings lingered. Poirot, You don't believe this shadow nonsense, do you? It's just a maid's imagination running wild." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Imagination, Hastings, is a powerful thing, but it is not the source of all truths. This shadow, it may be a trick, yes, but a trick of human design. Someone wishes us to fear the mirror, to distract from its true purpose." Back in their guest room, Poirot paced, his hands clasped behind his back. "Consider, Hastings, the mirror's history. Lord Ashford, a man of wealth and secrets, dies mysteriously. His widow speaks of a mirror that unsettles the household. A maid sees a shadow where none should be. And these scratches, they are fresh, made with intent. This is no ghost story, mon ami. It is a puzzle." Hastings sank into an armchair, rubbing his eyes. "A puzzle, maybe, but what's the point? Why scare a maid with shadows?" "To obscure," Poirot said sharply, "to hide a truth behind fear. The mirror, it is not merely decorative. It holds something, perhaps a secret of Lord Ashford's, perhaps a clue to his death. Tomorrow we shall learn more." As Hastings retired grumbling about the cold, Poirot stood at the window, watching the snow swirl outside. The manor was quiet now, but the air felt heavy with anticipation. The frosted mirror, with its strange glow and whispered legends, was the heart of this mystery, and Hercule Poirot, with his unerring instinct for truth, knew that the shadow in the glass was but the first thread in a tapestry of deception waiting to be unravelled. Chapter 3. The Locked Room Riddle. The dawn broke over Winterhaven Manor with a pale, reluctant light, the snow outside muffling the world in an oppressive hush. Hercule Poirot, always an early riser, was adjusting his tie in the guest room when a scream tore through the silence, sharp and desperate. Captain Hastings, still bleary-eyed from the previous night's disturbances, bolted upright. "Good Lord, Poirot, not another shadow in that blasted mirror!" Poirot's eyes narrowed, his moustache quivering with alertness. "No, mon ami, this is no mere shadow. That scream, it carries the weight of tragedy. Vite, we must go." They hurried down the grand staircase, following the sound to the ground floor, where a small crowd had gathered outside the study door. Annie, the maid, stood trembling, her hands covering her mouth, while Lady Eleanor Ashford, pale as the snow outside, clutched the doorframe. Major Brant, Miss Clara Thorne, and Madame Celeste Duval hovered nearby, their expressions a mix of shock and suspicion. "What's happened?" Hastings demanded, pushing through. "It's Mr. Grayson," Annie stammered. "The butler. He's dead." Poirot stepped forward, his calm authority steadying the chaos. "Madame," he said to Lady Eleanor, "permit me to examine the scene. No one must enter until I have observed." Lady Eleanor nodded faintly, stepping aside. The study door was locked, the key still in the keyhole on the inside. Poirot, with a nod to Hastings, instructed the chauffeur to fetch a skeleton key from the manor's tool room. As they waited, Poirot questioned Annie. "When did you find him, mademoiselle?" "Just now, sir," she replied, her voice shaking. "I came to light the fire, but the door was locked. I looked through the keyhole and saw him slumped over the desk. I called out, but he didn't move." The chauffeur returned, and Poirot deftly unlocked the door, stepping into the study with Hastings close behind. The room was dim, its heavy curtains drawn, the air thick with the scent of old books and wax. Mr. Grayson sat at the desk, his head resting on a ledger, his eyes staring blankly. A trickle of blood stained his temple, but no weapon was visible. In his right hand, clutched tightly, was a jagged shard of frosted glass, its edges glinting in the weak light. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, leaning closer. "This shard, it is from the mirror, perhaps. But how did it come to be here?" Hastings, peering over his shoulder, frowned. "Looks like he was struck, Poirot. But the door was locked from the inside. How could anyone get in?" Poirot's gaze swept the room, taking in every detail. The untouched bookshelves, the single window bolted shut, the fireplace cold and empty. A locked room, mon ami, is a puzzle that delights the little grey cells. The impossible is never, so it is merely a matter of perspective. He examined the body, noting the absence of defensive wounds. "No struggle," he said softly. "This suggests surprise or trust in the killer. And this shard—" He carefully pried it from Grayson's hand, holding it to the light. It was unmistakably similar to the frosted mirror in the drawing room, its surface etched with faint, irregular lines. "This is no ordinary glass. It is a clue, Hastings, a piece of the mirror's secret." The guests, now gathered just outside, whispered among themselves. Major Brant's voice boomed. "Damned odd business. Grayson was a steady fellow. Who'd want to kill him?" Madame Duval, her face pale beneath her rouge, clutched her scarf. "It's that mirror. It's cursed, I tell you. First the shadow, now this." Miss Clara, her eyes fixed on the floor, said nothing, but her fingers twisted nervously. Lady Eleanor, struggling to maintain composure, spoke. "Monsieur Poirot, Grayson had been with us for years. He was loyal, discreet. This is unthinkable." Poirot turned to the group, his expression unreadable. "Each of you, s'il vous plaît, tell me where you were between midnight and dawn." Alibis tumbled forth, each laced with hesitation. Major Brant claimed to have been in his room, nursing a brandy. Madame Duval said she was sketching in her quarters, unable to sleep. Miss Clara insisted she was reading in the library until late, and Lady Eleanor had retired early, though she admitted to hearing footsteps in the corridor. None of the alibis aligned perfectly, and Poirot's sharp gaze missed none of their unease. "Very well," he said, clasping his hands. "The study is now under my protection. No one enters without my permission. Hastings, assist me in searching the room." As the guests dispersed, their murmurs heavy with fear, Poirot and Hastings combed the study. The ledger on the desk was a record of household expenses, unremarkable save for a cryptic note scrawled in the margin. "Mirror holds the key. Trust no one." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Grayson knew something, Hastings. This note, this shard, they are threads in the tapestry of this crime." Hastings shook his head. "But the locked door, Poirot. Unless the killer's a ghost, how did they get out?" Poirot smiled faintly. "A ghost? No. But a clever mind, yes. The locked room is a trick, a misdirection. Perhaps the window, though bolted, was tampered with earlier. Or perhaps—" He paused, his gaze settling on the fireplace. Kneeling, he examined the grate, his fingers brushing against a faint trace of ash. "Curieux, this fireplace has been used recently, yet no fire was lit this morning." He stood brushing his hands. The frosted glass, the locked room, the note, they point to a purpose. Grayson's death is no accident, but a step in a larger design. The mirror, mon ami, is at the heart of it. As they left the study, sealing the door behind them, the manor seemed to close in, its walls whispering secrets. Poirot's mind churned, piecing together the puzzle. The shard of frosted glass, clutched in a dead man's hand, was a beacon in the fog of deception. A beacon that Hercule Poirot would follow to the truth. Chapter 4. Whispers of the past. Morning after Mr. Grayson's death cast a pall over Winterhaven Manor, the snow outside piling higher, sealing the estate in a frozen prison. Hercule Poirot sat in the library, a fire crackling beside him, his notebook open on a mahogany table. His meticulous handwriting catalogued the morning's observations. The frosted glass shard, the locked study, the cryptic note. Captain Hastings, restless as ever, paced near a towering bookshelf, his breath visible in the chilly air. "Poirot, this place is giving me the creeps," Hastings said, rubbing his hands. First, a shadow in the mirror, now a murder in a locked room, and everyone is acting as if they've got something to hide. Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Précisément, mon ami. It is in their secrets that we shall find the truth. Each guest has a connection to this house, to Lord Ashford, to the mirror. Today we uncover these threads." He had requested individual interviews with the guests, and Lady Eleanor Ashford was the first to enter, her face drawn with grief. "Monsieur Poirot, Grayson was more than a butler. He was a confidant. His death, it feels like a warning." Poirot leaned forward, his voice gentle but probing. "Madame, tell me of your husband's death. You said it was mysterious. What did you mean?" Lady Eleanor hesitated, her fingers twisting her handkerchief. "It was ruled an accident, a fall down the stairs. But he was not clumsy, and he had been troubled. He spoke of debts, of enemies from his past, and that mirror, he was obsessed with it, locking himself in the drawing-room for hours." "Enemies?" Poirot's eyebrows rose. "Who might they have been?" She shook her head. "He never named them. But he was a man of influence, involved in ventures I didn't fully understand. After his death, I found papers, burned, incomplete, hinting at something illicit." Poirot made a note, his mind racing. Next came Major Reginald Brant, his military bluster tempered by unease. "Look here, Poirot," he said, settling heavily into a chair. "I knew Ashford during the war. Fine chap, but he got mixed up in a bad business, some black market dealings, artifacts smuggled out of Europe. I warned him to steer clear, but he didn't listen." "And you, Major, were you involved?" Poirot asked, his tone neutral. Brandt's face reddened. "Absolutely not. I'm a man of honour. But Ashford, he made enemies. Perhaps one of them caught up with him. And now Grayson." Poirot's gaze was unyielding. "And where were you, Major, when Grayson met his end?" "In my room, as I said," Brandt snapped. "I heard nothing until that maid's scream." Miss Clara Thorne entered next, her reserved demeanour like a tightly coiled spring. Poirot noted her pale hands, clenched in her lap. "Mademoiselle, you mentioned a family curse tied to the mirror. What is this curse?" Clara's eyes flickered to the window, avoiding his gaze. "It's an old story. passed down by the staff. They say the mirror belonged to a noblewoman who died tragically, and her spirit lingers in the glass. Lord Ashford laughed it off, but he was different after acquiring it. He spoke of seeing things, of regrets. Regrets? Poirot pressed, shrugged, her voice barely audible. He never explained, but the staff believed the mirror brought misfortune. Poirot dismissed her with a polite nod, his scepticism clear. "Superstition, Hastings," he said once she left. "It clouds the mind. The mirror is no more cursed than my walking stick. But it is a key, and we must find what it unlocks." As the interviews concluded, Hastings, growing restless, began browsing the library shelves. "Poirot, there must be something here, records, letters, anything about Ashford's dealings." His fingers brushed a leather-bound volume tucked behind a row of dusty tomes. He pulled it out, revealing a worn diary, its pages yellowed. "Good heavens, Poirot! Look at this!" Hastings exclaimed, opening it. The diary belonged to Lord Ashford, its entries dated 2 years prior. One passage caught Poirot's eye. "The mirror hides more than it shows. The room behind it, my salvation or my ruin. If they find it, all is lost." Poirot's moustache quivered with excitement. "Formidable, Hastings. A secret room, perhaps. This diary is a treasure. What else does it say?" Hastings flipped through, reading haltingly. "It's vague. Talk of debts, a consortium, and a warning to trust no one. He mentions the mirror repeatedly, almost as if it were alive." Poirot stood, his energy renewed. "We must examine the drawing room again. If there is a room behind the mirror, it may hold the answers we seek. But first, we observe the guests, their reactions to Grayson's death. They betray more than they know." At luncheon, the atmosphere was strained, the clink of cutlery sharp against the silence. Madame Duval, her usual flamboyance subdued, picked at her food, while Major Brant drank heavily, his eyes darting to the door. Miss Clara sat rigidly, her gaze fixed on her plate. Lady Eleanor, attempting to maintain decorum, spoke little, her hands trembling as she poured tea. Poirot, ever the observer, noted their unease. "Madame Duval," he said casually, "you are an artist. Have you sketched the mirror? Its peculiarities might inspire you." Her fork clattered. I tried, but it unsettles me. The way it catches the light, it's unnatural." Poirot smiled thinly. "Unnatural, perhaps, but human hands crafted it, and human hands, I think, are behind this tragedy." As the meal ended, Poirot whispered to Hastings, "Watch them, mon ami. One of them knows more than they say. The diary, the mirror, Grayson's death, they are connected, and the truth lies in the past." The library grew colder as the day waned, the snow outside unrelenting. Poirot sat, the diary open before him, his mind weaving the fragments of the puzzle. Lord Ashford's secrets, the mirror's mystery, and now a murder in a locked room. The threads were there, waiting for Hercule Poirot to tie them together. Chapter 5. The Cipher in the Frost. The snowstorm outside Winterhaven Manor had intensified, its gusts rattling the windows like impatient spirits. Inside the drawing-room, Hercule Poirot stood before the frosted mirror, its pearlescent surface catching the flickering light of the chandelier. The scratches he had noted on the frame were now his focus, their irregular lines suggesting more than vandalism. Captain Hastings, bundled in a scarf against the manor's chill, hovered nearby, his scepticism undimmed by the morning's grim discovery of Mr. Grayson's body. "Poirot, you've been staring at that mirror for ages," Hastings said, his voice tinged with impatience. "It's just a piece of glass, scratches and all. Can't we focus on the murder? That locked room business is baffling enough." Poirot's eyes gleamed, undeterred. "Patience, mon ami. The mirror is not merely glass. It is the heart of this mystery. These scratches, they are not random. They whisper of purpose, of a secret hidden in plain sight." He adjusted his position, tilting his head to catch the light at a different angle. The frosted surface shimmered, and there, faint but undeniable, was a pattern, a series of delicate etchings, invisible unless viewed in the precise slant of light. "Regardez!" Poirot exclaimed, beckoning Hastings closer. "It is a cipher, Hastings. Lines and curves forming a message. Perhaps a name, perhaps a map. We must decipher it." Hastings squinted, his breath fogging the glass. "I see. Something. Looks like gibberish to me. Could be decorative, you know. Old mirrors often have fancy etchings." Poirot's moustache twitched with amusement. "Decorative? Non, mon ami. This is intentional, crafted to be seen only by those who know to look. We shall need paper and pencil to transcribe it." As Hastings fetched supplies from the library, Poirot traced the pattern with a gloved finger, noting its complexity. The etchings formed a grid of intersecting lines, some curved, some straight, suggesting a code or symbol. He murmured to himself, "A key to what? A lock, a location, or a name?" Their work was interrupted by a commotion in the hall. Madame Celeste Duval, the flamboyant artist, staggered into the drawing-room, her scarlet scarf askew, her face pale beneath her rouge. "Monsieur Poirot!" she gasped, clutching the doorframe. "The mirror! It spoke to me!" Hastings, returning with paper, raised an eyebrow. "Spoke? Good heavens, woman! Mirrors don't talk." Madame Duval sank onto a chaise longue, fanning herself. "Not words, Captain, but a presence. I was sketching it, trying to capture its light, when I felt a chill, and the glass. It seemed to hum, to whisper my name." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "Show me, madame, this sketch of yours." She produced a small notebook, its pages filled with frenetic pencil strokes. The mirror's outline was clear, but the etchings Poirot had noticed were absent. Instead, Hercule's sketch exaggerated the mirror's glow, almost as if it pulsed with life. Poirot studied it, his mind cataloguing her reaction. "You are sensitive, madame, to the atmosphere of this place. But tell me, what did you see in the glass?" Her eyes widened. "A face, not mine, a man shadowed watching me. Then it was gone, and I fainted." Hastings snorted. "Fainted? Sounds like nerves, Poirot, or too much wine at lunch." Poirot ignored him, addressing Madame Duval. "You are certain no one else was in the room?" "Certain," she whispered. "The door was closed, the windows shut. It was just me and that thing." Poirot nodded, dismissing her gently. As she left, he turned to Hastings. "This talk of faces and whispers, it is a distraction, mon ami. Someone wishes us to fear the mirror, to see it as supernatural. But I, Hercule Poirot, see only human trickery." He returned to the mirror, transcribing the etched pattern onto paper with precise strokes. The cipher resolved into a series of letters and numbers, LA37R, interspersed with geometric shapes. "It is incomplete," Poirot mused. "Perhaps a reference to a place within the manor, or a code to a lock. We must compare it to Lord Ashford's diary." Hastings, still sceptical, glanced at the mirror. "You think someone's staging these incidents? The shadow, now this." "But why?" "To obscure the truth," Poirot said firmly. "The mirror holds something. Documents, jewels, or knowledge. Grayson's death, this cipher, the diary, they are pieces of a puzzle someone does not wish us to solve." They were interrupted by Lady Eleanor, who entered, her face drawn. "Monsieur Poirot, the staff are terrified. They're whispering of curses, refusing to enter this room. What did Madame Duval mean about the mirror speaking?" Poirot smiled thinly. "Madame Duval is imaginative, but her fear is real. Tell me, has anyone else approached the mirror today?" Lady Eleanor shook her head. "Not that I know, but the staff avoid it and the guests. They're uneasy. Major Brandt keeps to his room, Miss Clara is withdrawn, and Madame Duval, well, you saw her." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. "The cipher, the mirror, the murder, all are connected. We must proceed with care, for the killer is among us, watching." As evening fell, the manor grew colder, the storm outside a relentless howl. Poirot and Hastings returned to the library, the transcribed cipher in hand. Comparing it to the diary, they found no immediate match, but a phrase stood out. "The mirror's secret is locked in frost." Poirot's eyes gleamed. The frost! It is not merely the glass, but the key to its mystery. Tomorrow we search for what this cipher unlocks. The drawing-room was silent now, the mirror's frosted surface reflecting only the dying firelight. But to Poirot it was a beacon, its cipher a challenge to his little grey cells. Someone in Winterhaven Manor was weaving a web of fear, and Hercule Poirot was determined to cut through it to the truth. Chapter 6. The Hidden Door, the Snowstorm, raged outside Winterhaven Manor, its relentless howl a constant reminder of the isolation enveloping the estate. Inside, the drawing-room was dimly lit, the frosted mirror casting an eerie glow under the chandelier's faltering light. Hercule Poirot stood before it, Lord Ashford's diary open in his hands, his eyes fixed on the passage that had sparked his curiosity, the room behind it, my salvation or my ruin. Beside him, Captain Hastings clutched the transcribed cipher LA37R, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Poirot, this diary is maddeningly vague," Hastings said, tapping the page. "A room behind the mirror. Sounds like a fairy tale. And this cipher could be anything. A safe combination, a map coordinate, or just nonsense." Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Nonsense, mon ami? No, nothing in this. House is without purpose. The mirror is a sentinel, guarding a secret. The diary and the cipher, they point us to a hidden place. We must find it." He ran his fingers along the mirror's ornate gilt frame, pressing gently at the carved vines and roses. The scratches he had noted earlier were more pronounced in the morning light, and he traced them, searching for a mechanism. "The diary speaks of a room," he murmured, "and the cipher, perhaps it is a key to access it." Hastings, ever practical, began tapping the wall behind the mirror, listening for hollow spots. If there's a room, there's got to be a door, right? But this mirror's massive, must weigh a ton. How do we move it? Poirot's eyes gleamed as his fingers caught on a subtle ridge beneath a carved rose. A faint click echoed, and the mirror shifted slightly, revealing a hairline seam in the wall. "Formidable!" he exclaimed. "A hidden door, Hastings, just as the diary suggested. Help me push." Together they eased the mirror aside, its base sliding on a concealed track. Behind it was a wooden panel, seamless but for a small recessed lock. Poirot examined it, comparing it to the cipher. LA37R, he mused. Perhaps a sequence for this lock, but we lack the key. Before they could proceed, footsteps approached. Lady Eleanor Ashford appeared, her face pale. "Monsieur, Poirot, what are you doing?" "That mirror, it's never been moved." Poirot turned, his expression calm. "Madame, your husband's diary speaks of a room behind this mirror. We have found it. Do you know of this place?" Her eyes widened, and she shook her head. "No, he never mentioned. But he was secretive, always locking himself in here. I thought it was the mirror itself he valued, not this." Poirot nodded, dismissing her gently. He and Hastings worked quickly, using a hairpin from Hastings' pocket to probe the lock. After several tense minutes, it gave way with a soft click, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. A musty draught wafted up, carrying the scent of old paper and dust. "Blimey, Poirot," Hastings whispered, peering down. "This is straight out of a Gothic novel. Are we sure about this?" "Courage, mon ami," Poirot said, producing a small flashlight. "The truth lies in the shadows." The staircase led to a cramped attic, its walls lined with cobwebs and forgotten trunks. In the centre stood a locked chest, its surface etched with the same frosted pattern as the mirror. Poirot knelt beside it, his flashlight illuminating a bundle of letters tied with twine. He scanned them, his expression growing grave. "Regardez, Hastings. These letters, they speak of a smuggling ring. Artifacts and jewels moved through Winterhaven during the war. Lord Ashford was no mere collector. He was a conspirator." Hastings read over his shoulder, his voice low. "Good Lord, listen to this. The consortium will not forgive betrayal. The mirror hides our wealth, but it must remain secret. Poirot, this could be the motive for his death. And Grayson's." Poirot nodded, tucking the letters into his coat. "Précisément. Grayson, as butler, may have known too much. But this chest, it is locked, and the cipher does not fit. We need more time." Their discovery was cut short by a distant rumble, like thunder but closer, more ominous. The manor shook faintly, and dust sifted from the attic's beams. "Storm," Hastings said, alarmed. "It's getting worse. We're trapped here, aren't we?" Poirot's gaze was steady. "The storm is a complication, yes, but also an opportunity. The killer cannot flee, and we are close to their secret. We must guard this attic and its contents." They returned to the drawing room, sealing the hidden door behind the mirror. The other guests were gathered in the dining hall, their faces tense as the storm's ferocity grew. Major Brandt sipped brandy, his eyes darting to the windows. Miss Clara sat silently, her hands folded tightly. Madame Duval, still shaken from her encounter with the mirror, toyed with her scarf. Lady Eleanor attempted to maintain order, but her voice trembled as she spoke of the worsening weather. Poirot, observing them, leaned toward Hastings. "One of them knows of this room, mon ami. The smuggling, the mirror, Grayson's death, they are all linked. We must watch their eyes, their gestures. The killer is growing nervous." As evening fell, the manor's lights flickered, the storm's wrath threatening to plunge them into darkness. Poirot returned to the diary, cross-referencing the letters. A name appeared repeatedly in the correspondence, R. Langley, matching the cipher's initials, L.A. "A partner in the smuggling, perhaps," Poirot said, "or an enemy. We must learn who this Langley is." The attic's discovery had shifted the mystery. The hidden door, a gateway to Lord Ashford's secrets. But as the snow piled higher, trapping the guests within, Poirot knew the danger was closer than ever. The frosted mirror, with its cryptic cipher and concealed chamber, was no longer just a puzzle. It was a beacon, drawing Hercule Poirot ever closer to a truth someone would kill to protect. Chapter 7. The Colonel's Confession. The snowstorm outside, Winterhaven Manor roared with unrelenting fury, its gusts shaking the ancient walls as if demanding entry. Inside, the dining hall was a tense tableau. The guests gathered around a polished oak table, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a chandelier. Hercule Poirot, impeccably composed despite the grim events, sipped his tisane, his keen eyes scanning the assembly. Lady Eleanor Ashford, her hands trembling as she poured tea, Major Reginald Brant, gripping his brandy glass. Miss Clara Thorne, silent and pale, and Madame Celeste Duval, her scarlet scarf a stark contrast to her ashen complexion. Captain Hastings, seated beside Poirot, shifted uncomfortably. The weight of the attic's discoveries, letters implicating Lord Ashford in a smuggling ring, still fresh in his mind. "Poirot," Hastings whispered, "that hidden room behind the mirror. It's a bombshell. Smuggling of all things. Do you think one of these people was in on it?" Poirot's moustache twitched. "Patience, mon ami. The letter's name are R. Langley, and the cipher, LA37R, suggests a connection. Tonight we shall stir the pot and see what rises." He stood, his small frame commanding the room's attention. "Mes amis," he began, his voice calm but deliberate. "The death of Mr. Grayson and the secrets of this house are linked to the frosted mirror. I have found evidence, a cipher etched into its surface. I believe it points to a treasure, hidden within Winterhaven. Does anyone wish to share what they know?" The silence was heavy, broken only by the storm's howl. Major Brant coughed, his face reddening. "Look here, Poirot. I've had enough of this cloak-and-dagger nonsense. If you must know, I had a row with Ashford years ago during the war. He was mixed up in some shady dealings, smuggled artifacts, as I told you. I confronted him, threatened to report him. He begged me to stay quiet, said it would ruin him." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And did you, Major, stay quiet?" Brant's jaw tightened. "I did, for old time's sake. But I swear, I had nothing to do with his death, or Grayson's." Lady Eleanor gasped softly. "Reginald, you never told me this." Before Poirot could press further, a scream pierced the air, sharp and panicked from the corridor. The group rushed out, finding Miss Clara crumpled on the floor, a heavy candelabrum lying beside her, its base dented. She stirred, her hand clutching, her temple where a bruise was forming. "Someone pushed it," she whispered. "I was walking, and it fell from the table." Poirot knelt beside her, his gaze sweeping the scene. The candelabrum, a solid brass piece, had stood on a narrow hall table, too stable to fall accidentally. His eyes caught a glint on the floor, a small frosted glass pendant, its surface etched with a faint pattern reminiscent of the mirror's cipher. He pocketed it discreetly, helping Clara to her feet. "Mademoiselle, you are fortunate. This was no accident." Madame Duval clutched her scarf, her voice trembling. "It's the curse! First Grayson, now this! The mirror is punishing us!" "Nonsense!" Brant snapped, though his bravado wavered. "Someone's playing tricks, that's all." Poirot's smile was thin. "Tricks, yes, but with deadly intent. Mademoiselle Clara, did you see anyone in the corridor?" She shook her head, wincing. "It was dark. I heard a rustle, then the candelabrum fell." Lady Eleanor, shaken, insisted Clara be taken to her room. As the group dispersed, Poirot pulled Hastings aside. "This pendant, mon ami, it is another piece of the puzzle. Its design matches the mirror's etchings. And this attack, it suggests the killer fears what Clara knows." Hastings frowned. "But her alibi, she was in the library when Grayson was killed. And Brant's confession, do you believe him?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. Brant's story is convenient, but it contradicts the letters, which suggest a deeper involvement. As for Clara, her silence hides something. Tonight, I set a trap, mentioning the cipher. Their reactions, Brant's confession, this attack, prove the killer is among us, growing desperate. They returned to the drawing-room, where the frosted mirror loomed, its surface catching the firelight. Poirot examined the pendant under his magnifying glass, noting its intricate etchings. A smaller version of the cipher, with the letters L.A. prominent. "This pendant," he said, "it is no mere trinket. It may belong to our mysterious R. Langley, or mark a member of the smuggling ring." Hastings paced, his mind racing. "So, the mirror hides a treasure, jewels perhaps, and Grayson was killed because he knew about it. But why attack Clara?" Poirot clasped his hands. "Clara may know more than she admits, perhaps about the mirror's secret or Ashford's dealings. Or she is a target to distract us. The killer weaves a web of fear, using the mirror's legend to mask their crimes. As night deepened, the storm's fury isolated the manor further, the lights flickering ominously. Poirot sat by the fire, the diary and letters spread before him. One letter mentioned a consortium meeting in the attic, with Langley as a key figure. "The hidden room," Poirot murmured. "It was their vault, their hiding place. But who among these guests is Langley, or their heir?" The manor creaked under the storm's weight, and Poirot's mind churned. The frosted glass pendant, the cipher, the hidden door, all pointed to a secret worth killing for. Major Brant's confession had cracked open the past, but the attack on Clara warned of a present danger. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells ablaze, knew the truth was close, hidden in the frost of the mirror's secrets. Chapter 8. The Artist's Deception. The storm outside Winterhaven Manor roared like a caged beast, its gusts battering the windows, as if seeking to unravel the secrets within. Inside the drawing-room, the frosted mirror stood sentinel, its pearlescent glow casting an eerie light across the faces of the gathered guests. Hercule Poirot, his posture impeccable despite the late hour, studied Madame Celeste Duval with particular intensity. Her flamboyant demeanour, scarlet scarf, theatrical gestures, had grown erratic since the attack on Miss Clara Thorne, and her earlier claim of the mirror speaking gnawed at Poirot's orderly mind. Captain Hastings, standing by the fire, rubbed his hands against the chill, his expression one of growing unease. "Poirot, this place is getting under my skin," Hastings whispered. "First Grayson's murder, now Clara nearly killed, and Madame Duval, she's been acting queerer than ever. Those sketches of hers, they're downright obsessive." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Précisément, mon ami. Madame Duval's behaviour betrays her. Her fear of the mirror is too pronounced, too convenient. I suspect she knows more than she reveals. Tonight we shall uncover her truth." He had requested Madame Duval's sketchbook, which she reluctantly provided during an impromptu gathering in the drawing-room. The guests, Lady Eleanor Ashford, Major Reginald Brant, and Miss Clara, her temples still bruised, sat in tense silence, the air thick with suspicion. Poirot opened the sketchbook, its pages filled with frantic renderings of the frosted mirror. Each sketch captured its ornate frame and shimmering surface. But one drawing stood out, a detailed study of the mirror's edge, where the scratches formed a pattern that matched the cipher LA37R, and included faint lines not visible to the naked eye. "Madame Duval," Poirot said, his voice smooth but piercing, "your talent is remarkable. These sketches reveal details of the mirror even I had not noticed. How did you see such things when the light in this room is so dim?" Duval's hands fluttered to her scarf, her French accent faltering. I have an artist's eye, monsieur. Poirot, the mirror, it fascinates me. Its glow, its mystery, it inspires." Poirot's smile was thin. "Inspires, yes, but also betrays. These lines you draw, they are the cipher we found etched into the glass. Yet you claimed to see a face, to hear whispers. Tell me, madame, are you truly Celeste Duval, the artist, or someone else entirely?" The room stilled, the storm's howl filling the silence. Lady Eleanor gasped, and Major Brant's glass paused midway to his lips. Miss Clara's eyes widened, but she remained silent. Duval's face paled, her bravado crumbling. "What are you suggesting? I am an artist, invited here to paint." Poirot stepped closer, holding up a sketch. "This drawing, it shows a mechanism in the mirror's frame. A latch, perhaps, leading to the hidden room we discovered. No casual observer would notice such a thing. You came to Winterhaven with a purpose, n'est-ce pas? Not to paint, but to seek what the mirror hides." Duval's lips trembled, and she sank into a chair. "Very well," she said, her accent slipping into a flatter, more English tone. "I'm not Celeste Duval. My name is Elise Moreau. I was an associate of Lord Ashford's, part of his consortium during the war. We smuggled artefacts, jewels, through this manor. The mirror was our vault, its secret room a hiding place. I came to retrieve what's mine." Hastings gaped. "Good heavens, a smuggler! But why pose as an artist?" Elise's eyes flashed. To get close to the mirror without suspicion. Ashford betrayed us, kept the spoils for himself. When he died, I thought the secret died with him, until Lady Eleanor invited guests, stirring rumours about the mirror. I had to act. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. And Grayson's death, the attack on Mademoiselle Clara, were these your acts to protect your claim? No, Elise cried, her voice breaking. I swear I didn't kill anyone. I only wanted what was owed to me. A cache of diamonds hidden in that room. I've been watching the mirror, sketching to find the mechanism. But someone else got to Grayson first. Poirot studied her, his mind cataloguing her words. You know of our Langley, then? The name in the letters? Elise nodded reluctantly. Langley was Ashford's partner, the leader of our group. I don't know where he is now, dead, perhaps, or hiding. But the pendant Clara wore, it's his mark, a sign of the consortium. The mention of the pendant, found after Clara's attack, sent a ripple through the room. Clara touched her neck, her face pale. I found it in my room days ago. I thought it was a gift. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A gift or a warning, Madame Moreau. You will remain under my watch. Your deception does not make you a murderer, but it makes you a suspect. As the guests dispersed, their whispers filled with shock, Poirot pulled Hastings aside. Her story rings true, mon ami, but it is incomplete. She knows the mirror's secret, yet denies the killings. The pendant, the cipher, the hidden room, they point to Langley, or someone claiming his legacy. Hastings rubbed his chin. So, she's not the killer, but she's after the same treasure. Who's left? Brandt, with his shady past. Clara, with her secrets? Or even Lady Eleanor? Poirot clasped his hands. All are possible, but the killer is cunning, using the mirror's legend to sow fear. We must return to the attic, examine the chest. The diamonds Elise seeks, they are the motive and the key. The manor groaned under the storm's weight, its lights flickering as night deepened. The frosted mirror, now a known vault, stood silent, its secrets partially unveiled. But Poirot knew the truth was still shrouded, and the artist's deception was only one layer in a mystery that grew deadlier by the hour. Chapter 9. The Mirror's Memory. The storm's relentless fury battered Winterhaven Manor, the snow piling against the windows like a barricade, sealing the inhabitants in a world of secrets and suspicion. In the drawing-room, the frosted mirror loomed, its pearlescent surface reflecting the flickering firelight, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. Hercule Poirot stood before it, his small frame radiating determination, his eyes fixed on the intricate gilt frame. The revelation of Madame Duval, now Elise Moreau, as a smuggler, had shifted the puzzle, but the murder of Mr. Grayson and the attack on Miss Clara Thorne remained unsolved. Captain Hastings, ever loyal, stood nearby, clutching Lord Ashford's diary, his face etched with unease. Poirot, this business with Elise is a shock, Hastings said, glancing at the mirror. A smuggler posing as an artist. But if she's not the killer, who is? And what's this mirror hiding? You've been staring at it for hours. Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. Not staring, mon ami, but observing. The mirror is more than a decorative piece. It is a safe, a vault crafted with cunning. The cipher LA37R and the hidden door we found suggest it conceals something of great value. Diamonds, perhaps, as Elise claims. Tonight we shall test this hypothesis. He had summoned the manor's chauffeur, a burly man named Jenkins, who had once apprenticed as a locksmith. Jenkins arrived, toolbox in hand, his expression wary. "You want me to tamper with that mirror, sir? The staff say it's bad luck." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Luck, Monsieur Jenkins, is a fiction. Skill, however, is real. Examine the frame. There is a mechanism, hidden but accessible. The scratches and the cipher point to it." Jenkins, hesitant, ran his hands along the frame, probing the carved vines and roses. Poirot directed him to the spot where the hidden door's latch had been found, and after several minutes of careful work, Jenkins pressed a concealed panel. A soft click echoed, and a small section of the mirror's base slid open, revealing a narrow compartment. Inside lay a leather-bound ledger, its cover etched with the same frosted pattern as the mirror and the pendant found after Clara's attack. "Formidable!" Poirot exclaimed, carefully extracting the ledger. "This, Hastings, is the mirror's memory, a record of secrets. Let us see what it reveals." The ledger's pages were filled with coded entries, columns of numbers, initials, and cryptic phrases. One entry caught Poirot's eye. RL 3-7. Consignment secured. Vault sealed. Betrayal suspected. Another mentioned Winterhaven cash. D37, with a sketch of a diamond. "This is the work of the smuggling ring," Poirot said. "R. Langley, the leader, used this manor as a hub. The mirror's compartment was their safe, and this ledger tracks their spoils." Hastings peered over his shoulder. "Good Lord, Poirot, diamonds! That's motive enough for murder. But who's R. Langley? Elise mentioned him, but she claims he's gone." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. "Langley, or someone claiming his name, is key. The pendant, the cipher, this ledger, they all bear his mark. But we must decode these entries to know more." Their discovery was interrupted by a sudden gust of wind rattling the windows. The lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness. When they returned, the ledger was gone, snatched from the table where Poirot had placed it. Hastings spun around, scanning the room. "Blast it! Poirot! Someone was here!" Poirot's expression darkened, but his voice remained calm. "A clever thief, mon ami, and bold. They were watching, waiting for this moment. The door to the corridor. It was ajar, yes?" Hastings rushed to check, finding the corridor empty but for a faint draught. "They're gone. How did they move? So fast?" Poirot clasped his hands, his eyes narrowing. "Speed is not the issue, but opportunity. The guests were in the dining hall, or so they claimed, yet one slipped away, unseen, to claim the ledger. This theft proves we are close to the truth." He returned to the mirror, examining the compartment again. A single sheet remained, torn from the ledger, bearing a partial entry. L.A. to deliver. Final consignment. Trust broken. Poirot pocketed it, his mind churning. This fragment confirms betrayal within the ring. Grayson, as butler, may have known of the ledger's existence. His death was to silence him. And Clara, her attack suggests she too knows something dangerous. Hastings rubbed his chin. So, the killer's after the diamonds, and now they've got the ledger. But why not take it sooner? "Because," Poirot said, They did not know its precise location until we revealed it. Our discovery forced their hand. We must now watch the guests closely. Major Brandt, with his wartime ties, Clara, with her secrets, even Lady Eleanor, who may know more than she admits. As they left the drawing-room, the storm's howl seemed to mock their efforts, the manor's walls closing in. Poirot gathered the guests in the library, their faces a mix of fear and suspicion. "Mes amis," he said, "a ledger has been stolen, a record of crimes hidden in the mirror. The thief is among us, and I, Hercule Poirot, will find them." Major Brandt scoffed, his brandy glass trembling. "You're stirring up trouble, Poirot. We're all victims here, trapped by this storm." Clara, her bruise stark against her pale skin, said nothing, her eyes fixed on the floor. Elise Moreau, her impostor's mask discarded, fidgeted with her scarf, avoiding Poirot's gaze. Lady Eleanor's hands shook as she spoke. "Monsieur Poirot, this manor is cursed by my husband's sins. Please, end this nightmare." Poirot's smile was resolute. "Not a curse, madame, but human greed. The mirror's memory has spoken, and its secrets will lead us to the killer." The night deepened, the storm unrelenting. Poirot sat by the fire, the torn ledger page in hand, his little grey cells working tirelessly. The stolen ledger was a setback, but the mirror's secrets were unravelling, and Hercule Poirot was determined to follow their trail to the heart of the mystery. Chapter 10. The Governess's Secret. The storm's unyielding assault on Winterhaven manor seemed to mirror the tension within, its howling winds a chorus to the secrets unravelling in the frosted mirror's shadow. Hercule Poirot sat in the library, the fire casting long shadows across the room, his notebook filled with meticulous notes on the stolen ledger, the frosted glass pendant, and the hidden attic. The theft of the ledger had sharpened his focus, and now his attention turned to Miss Clara Thorne, whose reserved demeanour and recent brush with death suggested a deeper connection to the mystery. Captain Hastings, pacing near a bookshelf, clutched the torn ledger page, his frustration palpable. "Poirot, this ledger business is infuriating," Hastings said, waving the fragment. "We had the key to the smuggling ring, and now it's gone. And Clara, someone tried to kill her. She must know something, but she's as tight-lipped as ever." Poirot's eyes gleamed, his moustache twitching. "Précisément, mon ami. Mademoiselle Clara's silence is not mere shyness. It is a shield. Her attack, the pendant, her talk of curses, she is entangled in this web. Today we shall uncover her secret." He had requested a private interview with Clara, and she entered the library, her pale face framed by a high-collared dress, the bruise on her temple a stark reminder of the candelabram's fall. She sat stiffly, her hands clasped, her eyes avoiding Poirot's piercing gaze. "Monsieur Poirot," she began, her voice low, "I've told you all I know. I was in the library when Mr. Grayson was killed. The attack on me, I saw no one." Poirot leaned forward, his tone gentle. "Think it was a candelabrum, not a reflection. And you, Mademoiselle Clara, what did you see?" Her lips trembled and she hesitated, her fingers tightening in her lap. I saw a reflection in the mirror, the night Grayson died. A figure, cloaked, moving in the drawing-room. It was no trick of the light. It was real. Poirot's eyebrows rose. A bold claim, mademoiselle. Describe this figure, s'il vous plaît, and why you did not mention it sooner. Clara's gaze dropped. I was afraid. The mirror, it's tied to Lord Ashford's secrets. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. The figure was tall, shadowed, wearing a dark coat. I couldn't see their face, but they moved quickly, as if they knew the room well. Poirot's mind raced, cataloguing her words. And yet you say the room was empty when you checked. Why keep this secret until now? Her composure cracked and her voice broke. Because I am Lord Ashford's daughter, his illegitimate daughter, born to a governess he employed years ago. He acknowledged me privately, but excluded me from his will. I came to Winterhaven to find proof of my claim. Letters, documents, anything. I thought the mirror might hold answers. But after Grayson's death, I feared speaking out would make me a target. Hastings gasped. Good heavens, Clara! His daughter? That's a motive if ever I heard one. Poirot's expression remained calm, though his eyes were sharp. Mademoiselle, this is a grave revelation. You believe the mirror hides proof of your parentage? And this figure you saw, could they have known your secret? Clara nodded, tears welling. I found the pendant in my room, with the initials L.A. I thought it was a message, a warning. My mother told me of Ashford's dealings, a smuggling ring, led by someone named Langley. I feared the killer was after me, to silence my claim. Poirot produced the frosted glass pendant, its etched pattern glinting in the firelight. This pendant, mademoiselle, it bears the mark of the consortium. Did you place it in your room to cast suspicion elsewhere? No, she cried. I swear I found it there. Someone wanted me to look guilty, or afraid. To test her story, Poirot stood, gesturing for her to follow. Come, we shall recreate this moment. Show me precisely where you stood, what you saw. They moved to the drawing-room, the frosted mirror looming under the chandelier's dim glow. Clara pointed to a spot near the door. Here, I was passing by, glancing at the mirror. The figure was there. She gestured to the centre of the room. But when I entered, no one was inside. Poirot positioned himself where she indicated, studying the mirror's angles. The frosted surface distorted reflections, but from her vantage point, a figure in the room should have been visible. He paced the space, noting the door's proximity and the window's bolted state. Curieux, he murmured. The reflection you describe, it is possible only if the figure stood precisely here, yet you found the room empty. The timing, it is too perfect. Hastings frowned. You think she's lying, Poirot? Not lying, perhaps, but mistaken, Poirot said, or manipulated. The mirror's legend, shadows, whispers. It is a tool to sow fear. Your story, mademoiselle, has inconsistencies. The figure could not vanish so quickly unless they knew the hidden door's secret, yet you claim ignorance of it. Clara's face flushed. I'm telling the truth. I saw what I saw. Poirot's smile was gentle but probing. Perhaps, but fear clouds the mind. The pendant, the attack, your silence. These suggest you know more than you admit, or someone wishes us to believe you do. As they returned to the library, the storm's roar underscored the manor's isolation. Poirot sat, reviewing his notes. The ledger's theft, the pendant's mark, Clara's revelation. Her claim of parentage is plausible, he told Hastings, but her story of the reflection, it is too convenient, too aligned with the mirror's myth. Someone is orchestrating these events, using the mirror to distract us. Hastings rubbed his chin. So, Clara's either a victim or part of the plot. But why target her? To silence her or to frame her, Poirot said. Her connection to Ashford makes her a threat, or a scapegoat. The ledger, the diamonds, Langley's shadow, they are the heart of this mystery. The manor creaked, the storm unrelenting. Clara's secret had cracked open a new layer of the puzzle. But her tale of the mirror's reflection held flaws. Hercule Poirot, his little grey cells ablaze, knew the truth lay in untangling these inconsistencies, hidden in the frosted mirror's deceptive glow. Chapter 11. The Storm's Revelation. The storm's wrath enveloped Winterhaven Manor, its howling, winds and relentless snow transforming the estate into a fortress of isolation. Inside the drawing-room, the frosted mirror gleamed under the chandelier's faltering light, its cryptic presence at the heart of the unfolding mystery. Hercule Poirot, his demeanour as composed as ever, stood before the assembled guests. Whodunit, Eleanor Ashford, Major Reginald Brant, Miss Clara Thorne, and Elise Moreau, formerly Madame Celeste Duval. The air was thick with tension, the weight of Mr. Grayson's murder, the attack on Clara, and the stolen ledger pressing on them all. Captain Hastings, by Poirot's side, clutched the torn ledger page, his eyes darting between the guests. "Poirot, this reenactment idea of yours," Hastings whispered. "It's bold, but risky. Stirring up the killer like this, aren't you worried they'll strike again?" Poirot's moustache twitched with a faint smile. "Risk, mon ami, is necessary to unmask a killer. The mirror, the cipher, the hidden room, they all point to a truth someone wishes to bury. Tonight, we shall provoke it into the light." He addressed the group, his voice steady but commanding. "Mes amis, the murder of Mr. Grayson occurred in this manner, under our noses. The frosted mirror, with its cipher and hidden compartment, is the key. I propose we recreate the night of his death, to understand the movements of each person. Who was where when the scream woke us? Let us begin." Lady Eleanor, her hands trembling, nodded. "Anything to find the truth, Monsieur Poirot." Major Brant grumbled but complied, while Clara, her bruise stark against her pale skin, sat rigidly. Elise, her impostor's mask shed, fidgeted with her scarf, her eyes avoiding the mirror. Poirot directed each guest to their claimed positions that night. "Mademoiselle Clara, you were in the library, yes? Major Brant in your room with brandy. Madame Moreau, sketching in your quarters. Lady Eleanor, retired early. We shall retrace your steps, and I shall observe." As the reenactment began, Poirot positioned himself near the mirror, his eyes sharp. Clara walked to the library door, pausing as if to glance at the mirror, reenacting her claim of seeing a cloaked figure. Brant stomped to the staircase, mimicking his late-night pacing. Elise moved hesitantly, her sketchbook clutched tightly, while Lady Eleanor stood by the corridor, her face drawn. Poirot noted their movements, their glances, the subtle hesitations that betrayed unease. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the manor plunged into darkness, the storm's roar filling the void. A collective gasp rose from the guests, followed by a faint eerie glow emanating from the mirror. Hastings grabbed Poirot's arm. "Good Lord, Poirot, look at that!" In the darkness, a luminescent mark, LA37R, the cipher, shimmered on the mirror's frosted surface, visible only without light. Poirot's eyes widened. "Formidable! The cipher, it is phosphorescent, hidden until now. This mirror is a masterpiece of deception." As the lights stuttered back on, the mark faded, but Poirot was already at the mirror, his magnifying glass tracing the etched lines. "This glow," he said, "it is a chemical, perhaps, applied to guide someone in darkness. But to what?" He turned to the guests, their faces pale in the restored light. "This mark confirms the mirror's purpose. A guide to a secret. Let us search further." Recalling the diary's mention of a room behind, Poirot returned to the hidden door behind the mirror, opened during their earlier discovery. The narrow staircase led to the attic, but Poirot's attention shifted to the drawing room's walls. He tapped the panelling, listening for hollow spots until a faint echo sounded near the fireplace. "Hastings, help me," he said, pressing the stonework. A low, grinding noise followed, revealing a forgotten passage, its entrance concealed by a false panel. The passage, damp and narrow, stretched into darkness. Poirot's flashlight illuminated cobwebs and a dusty floor, but at its end was a small alcove containing a locked box, its surface etched with the same LA initials as the pendant and ledger. Inside, they found a single document, a contract between Lord Ashford and R. Langley, detailing a smuggling deal for diamonds, with a note, "Betrayer will pay." A fingerprint smudged in ink marked the page. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured. "This is the link, the smuggling ring's final proof. The fingerprint. It belongs to the killer, or their accomplice." Hastings gaped. "A fingerprint? Poirot, we've got them now. But whose is it?" Poirot pocketed the document, his mind racing. "We shall compare it to the guest's prints, but discreetly. The killer knows we are close. They stole the ledger, attacked Clara. This passage, this contract, it threatens their freedom." As they emerged from the passage, the guests were waiting, their expressions a mix of fear and curiosity. Major Brant's voice boomed. "What's this now, Poirot? Another secret room? You're turning this place upside down." Clara's eyes flickered to the mirror, her hand touching her bruise. Elise, her composure fraying, muttered, "It's Langley's work. He's behind this, dead or alive." Lady Eleanor, trembling, said, "My husband's sins haunt us still." Poirot's gaze was unyielding. The mirror has revealed its secret. A passage, a contract, a betrayal. The killer is among us, and their time is running out. The storm roared, the manor's lights flickering again. The glowing cipher, the hidden passage, and the smudged fingerprint had shifted the mystery, bringing Poirot closer to the truth. But as the snow sealed them in, Hercule Poirot knew the killer was cornered, and the final revelation was near. Chapter 12. The Frosted Truth. The storm outside Winterhaven Manor had reached a fever pitch, its howling winds and blinding snow sealing the estate in a cocoon of isolation. Inside the drawing room, the frosted mirror stood as a silent sentinel, its pearlescent glow reflecting the tension among the gathered guests. Lady Eleanor Ashford, Major Reginald Brant, Miss Clara Thorne, and Elise Moreau. Hercule Poirot, his small frame radiating authority, faced them, his eyes sharp as he held the torn ledger page and the smudged contract from the hidden passage. Captain Hastings by his side clutched the frosted glass pendant, his heart pounding with anticipation. "Poirot, this is it, isn't it?" Hastings whispered. "You've got the killer cornered. But who is it? Brant, Clara, Elise?" Poirot's moustache twitched with a knowing smile. "Patience, mon ami. The mirror has spoken its secrets. The cipher, the ledger, the passage. Now, Hercule Poirot shall reveal the truth." He turned to the guests, his voice steady and commanding. "Mes amis, the murder of Mr. Grayson, the attack on Mademoiselle Clara, the theft of the ledger, all are threads in a tapestry of greed and betrayal. The frosted mirror, with its hidden compartment and glowing cipher, has guided us to the heart of this mystery. Tonight, I name the killer." The room stilled, the storm's roar a distant echo. Lady Eleanor's hands trembled. Brant's brandy. Glass froze midway to his lips. Clara's bruise seemed to darken under her pale skin, and Elise's scarf slipped from her nervous fingers. Poirot paced before the mirror, his hands clasped behind his back. "Let us reconstruct the night of Grayson's death," he began. The butler was found in a locked study, a shard of frosted glass in his hand, a note warning to trust no one. The room was sealed, yet the killer entered and escaped. How? The fireplace, mes amis, held traces of ash, recent, yet no fire was lit that night. A secret passage, like the one behind the mirror, connects the study to the hidden attic. He paused, letting the revelation sink in. Grayson knew of the smuggling ring, led by Lord Ashford and R. Langley. The ledger, hidden in the mirror's compartment, detailed their crimes. A cache of diamonds, the Winter Haven cache. Grayson, loyal but curious, discovered the ledger's existence. He was silenced to protect the treasure. Poirot turned to Clara. "Mademoiselle, you claimed to see a cloaked figure in the mirror. Your story, it was vivid but impossible. The mirror's angle does not allow such a reflection unless the figure stood precisely where you indicated, yet the room was empty. You lied, not out of malice, but to protect your secret as Ashford's daughter. You hoped to find proof of your parentage, yes?" Clara nodded, tears welling. "I thought. The mirror held documents proving my claim. I saw nothing that night. I was afraid." Poirot nodded, then faced Elise. "Madame Moreau, you came as an impostor, seeking the diamonds. Your sketches revealed the mirror's mechanism, but you did not kill. You are a thief, not a murderer." Elise's shoulders sagged. "I only wanted what was mine." Poirot's gaze shifted to Major Brant, whose face reddened. "Major, you confessed to a wartime quarrel with Ashford over smuggled artifacts, but the letters in the attic named you Reginald Langley Brant. You are R. Langley, the consortium's leader. The cipher, LA37R, uses your initials and the date of your final deal, March the 7th. The pendant, marked LA, was yours, left to frame Clara." Brant's glass shattered on the floor. "Preposterous! I'm no smuggler. I fought for king and country." Poirot's voice was relentless. "You fought for profit, monsieur. Ashford betrayed you, keeping the diamonds. When he died, you bided your time, but Grayson's curiosity threatened exposure. You used the study's passage to kill him, planting the glass shard to point to the mirror. The attack on Clara was a distraction to cast suspicion on her claim. The ledger's theft, your work, to destroy evidence. But the contract, with your fingerprint, betrayed you. Brant lunged for the door, but Hastings, anticipating the move, blocked his path. "Not so fast, Major." The chauffeur Jenkins appeared, restraining Brant as he struggled, his bluster collapsing into curses. Lady Eleanor gasped. "Reginald! How could you?" Poirot continued, his voice calm. "The motive was greed, revenge for Ashford's betrayal, and fear of exposure. The diamonds, hidden in the attic's locked chest, were your prize. The mirror's glowing cipher guided you in darkness, a trick you devised for the consortium. But you underestimated Hercule Poirot." He produced the contract, its smudged fingerprint unmistakable. "This and the pendant's etchings confirm your identity. The mirror's memory held the truth, and your actions wove the noose." Brant sagged, defeated. "Ashford cheated me. Those diamonds were my due. Grayson was nosy, always snooping. I had to act." Poirot nodded. "And Clara's attack, to make her seem guilty or to silence her knowledge of your name. But the little grey cells, they see through such deceptions." As Jenkins led Brant away, to be held until the storm allowed for authorities, the room exhaled. Clara wept softly. Elise stared at the floor, and Lady Eleanor clutched her shawl. "The diamonds," she whispered. "Are they truly here?" Poirot gestured to the mirror. "In the attic, madame, locked in the chest. The cipher 37 is the combination. You may reclaim what is rightfully yours, but I advise caution. Such treasures bring only sorrow." The storm's fury seemed to wane, as if acknowledging the truth's unveiling. The frosted mirror, its secrets laid bare, stood silent, its glow dimmed. Hercule Poirot, his work complete, adjusted his tie, his mind already turning to the warmth of a less perilous hearth. Chapter 13. The Mirror's Legacy. The storm that had gripped Winterhaven Manor for days began to relent, its howling winds softening to a mournful sigh as the snow settled into a glittering blanket across the Yorkshire countryside. Inside the drawing-room, the frosted mirror stood silent, its pearlescent glow dimmed now that its secrets had been laid bare. Hercule Poirot, his attire as immaculate as ever, stood before it one final time, his sharp eyes reflecting a mind still turning over the intricacies of the case. Captain Hastings, bundled against the lingering chill, packed their bags, his relief palpable after the dramatic unmasking of Major Reginald Brant as the killer and smuggler R. Langley. "Poirot, I must say, you've done it again," Hastings said, securing a suitcase. "Brant, a murderer and a smuggler. That mirror business, cipher, hidden room, diamonds, it was like something out of a novel. But it's over now, thank heavens." Poirot's moustache twitched with a wistful smile. "Over, mon ami? The crime is solved, yes, but the legacy of such deeds lingers. The mirror, it reflected not just light, but the flaws of those who gazed into it. Greed, betrayal, revenge. These are the true shadows we have uncovered." The guests, or what remained of them, gathered in the library, their faces marked by the ordeal. Lady Eleanor Ashford, her composure restored but her eyes heavy with grief, sat by the fire. Miss Clara Thorne, now openly acknowledged as Lord Ashford's illegitimate daughter, clutched a shawl, her bruise fading, but her expression one of quiet resolve. Elise Moreau, the impostor unmasked, stood apart, her scarlet scarf a muted reminder of her deception. Major Brandt, confined to a locked room under Jenkins' watch, awaited the authorities, who would arrive once the roads cleared. Lady Eleanor spoke, her voice steady but soft. "Monsieur Poirot, you have saved us from a nightmare. My husband's sins, Brandt's treachery, the diamonds, I want no part of them. The mirror has brought nothing but sorrow. I've decided to destroy it, to end its hold over this house." Poirot nodded approvingly. "A wise choice, madam. The mirror is but an object, yet it became a canvas for human folly. Its destruction will sever the chain of greed that bound your husband Brandt and others to their ruin." Clara looked up, her voice tentative. "And the diamonds, they're still in the attic, locked in that chest. What should we do with them?" Poirot's gaze was firm. "They are evidence, mademoiselle, of crimes past. When the authorities arrive, they will take them. Your claim to your father's legacy, your true legacy, is not in jewels, but in the truth you now carry. Use it wisely." Elise, her bravado gone, spoke quietly. "I came for those diamonds, Monsieur Poirot, but I see now they're cursed. Not by spirits, but by what they made us do. I'll face my punishment, whatever it is." Poirot's expression softened, though his voice remained resolute. "You sought to steal, Madame Moreau, but you did not kill. The law will decide your fate, but honesty may yet redeem you." Hastings, impatient to leave, glanced out the window. "The snow's easing, Poirot. We might get a car to the station soon. I'm ready for London's warmth after this frozen nightmare." Poirot chuckled softly. "The warmth of order, mon ami, is what I seek. This case, it was a puzzle of distortions, like the mirror's frosted surface. The cipher, LA37R, the hidden passage, the ledger, the pendant, all were reflections of a truth warped by greed. Yet, with the little grey cells, we brought clarity." Lady Eleanor rose, her hands clasped. "Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings, I cannot thank you enough. This manner will heal in time, without the mirror's shadow. Will you stay until the authorities arrive?" Poirot shook his head. "No, madame. Our work here is done. The storm has cleared, and we must return to the world beyond. But I leave you with this. Guard against the temptations that led to this tragedy. They are more dangerous than any mirror." As they prepared to depart, Poirot took a final walk through the drawing-room. The mirror, soon to be shattered, seemed almost ordinary now, its mystique stripped away. He paused, reflecting on the human flaws that had fueled the mystery. Lord Ashford's duplicity, Brandt's vengeance, Clara's hidden pain, Elise's desperation. "The mirror," he murmured, "showed us only what we wished to see, until we looked with truth." The car arrived, crunching through the snow, and Poirot and Hastings boarded, their breath fogging in the crisp air. As Winterhaven Manor receded into the distance, its turrets fading into the white expanse, Hastings leaned back, exhaling. "Well, Poirot, another case solved, but I'll never look at a mirror the same way again." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Mirrors, mon ami, are but tools. It is the heart that distorts or reveals, and the heart of Hercule Poirot It seeks always the truth, no matter how frosted the glass. The road stretched ahead, the sky clearing to a pale blue. Winterhaven's secrets were laid bare, its legacy one of lessons hard learned. Poirot, his mind already turning to the next puzzle, adjusted his hat, content in the knowledge that order had been restored, at least for now.